Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Scott Fox After 9. This episode is brought to you by thecaulkingstore.com. The great guys, I'm going to talk about them later on in the episode, thecaulkingstore.com. On this episode, it's basically going to be a continuation of what you've been hearing for the last 2 days. It's a big deal. 50% tariff coming to Canada in 28 days. We happen to have all of the country's premiers all meeting for their annual Council of the Federation meeting. And today, Mark Carney is joining them. You're going to hear from various provincial premiers on this episode. I want to talk about interprovincial trade barriers because they say they knocked one down yesterday. Well, I don't see it that way. I'm also going to try and squeeze in your listener DMs, and I do have some audio from America related to the tariff situation as well. All that and more coming up. Give me like half an hour, and I'm going to give you so much more information, so much more audio and context than you're getting from the mainstream media. Before I go too far into it, let's talk about the important thing. The mainstream media, the CBC, is apparently going to be the federal government's lead on fact-checking mis- and disinformation online. I'm serious. The CBC is going to be the fact-checker. The CBC, who in my estimation has propelled an absolute ton of mis- and disinformation, is going to be in charge of saying that different social media posts are or are not mis- or disinformation. And if it's mis- or disinformation, well, they want to start laying charges. They want to fine people. That's what the Heritage Ministry in Canada wants to do. My friends, the CBC fact-checking anything is wrong. And let me give you a prime example. The CBC, if you dig for them, is full of retractions and apologies. What they'll do is they'll put out a story, it gets a ton of views, and then when they realize, oh yeah, crap, I guess that was wrong, then they issue the retraction. But by then, the damage is done. People have already read the article. Well, as you keep that in mind, the CBC was vehemently defending the Prime Minister. They were mocking anyone who suggested that the Prime Minister got a bad deal on the Gordie Howe Bridge. Well, now it's been determined the Prime Minister lied to Canadians. There's no way our Prime Minister didn't know that the new deal that he agreed to with America was a split of net revenue after some expenses, but nothing toward the debt. We're going to split revenue with the Americans for 15 years before we can even begin to tackle paying off what we spent on that bridge. The Prime Minister lied to Canadians. He said it was net profit that we were splitting. He was asked about it, and he confirmed net profit. The finance minister confirmed net profit, and the media defended him to the end. Well, now we know, because the deal is published, it's net revenue. And I would find it hard to believe that an economic genius like Mark Carney and our finance minister didn't understand what they were signing. The media ran cover for it without even trying to fact check it. It was an American publication that told us our Prime Minister lied to us. Yesterday, the Conservative caucus was out and about across the country. I want to play for you some comments from, I believe it's Shuv Majumdar. He is a Calgary member of Parliament and a nice guy by the sounds of it.
This bridge was supposed to be a major binational accomplishment, but now it's caught up in all this controversy. What does the drama around this bridge opening say about the Canada and U.S. relationship?
I think what it demonstrates is that when you have a government that has been negotiating with weakness, that has been dilly-dallying on making the big decisions that would unleash Canadian productivity, that would allow our country to achieve things working together as a federation we were promised in 1867, I think what it shows is that the approach that the Prime Minister has taken over the last year and a half of wait and see has not been working. Again, he has our sympathy when it comes to dealing with a tough negotiator in the United States. These tariffs are unjustified entirely. We call on the United States to repeal them immediately. Canadians are sick and tired of being made into a punching bag by President Trump and have the self-respect to fight for their existence and for their country. And they deserve a government that's willing to do the same thing. And so in the string of concessions we have seen, concession after concession after concession, over a year and a half of squandered opportunity to fight for Canada, to fight for the Canadian interests, Conservatives are proposing an alternative that would actually deliver a deal for our country, that would have the backbone to deal with an aggressive administration, and more importantly, the backbone to deliver a country that will prosper for the next half century.
There's no way Mark Carney didn't know what he was signing. So he lied to the Canadian people. And even now, as it's getting reported, you can see how uncomfortable some of these journalists are having to actually say it. But they're really smoothing it over. They're saying things like the Prime Minister may have misled Canadians. It was a lie. He wanted to not take that political loss. He wanted to make it look like he didn't bow down in front of President Trump. But that's exactly what happened. All the money was to come to us. Instead, now half of it is going to the Americans for 15 years. We're owed better in this country, my friends. We are owed an honest government that will tell the Canadian people the way it is. You know what? I want to hear from Mark Carney why he changed that deal. He's the guy who says no deal is better than a bad deal. Well, he signed a bad deal. Why did he do it? Why did he lie to the Canadian people about it? We're all entitled to know the answer to that. The Prime Minister is meeting with the premiers right now out in Prince Edward Island. Let's hear a little bit of his opening remarks. Part of the reason that today's episode is a little delayed is because I was trying to get some of the Prime Minister into it. So here's what I've got so far.
Just on Tuesday to coordinate a united Team Canada response. We'll continue these discussions shortly without the media in the room, including how we can make the most of our expanding trade network around the world, because Canada has what the world wants, including being a reliable partner in a world that's anything but. Nous sommes en train de...
Okay, fairly generic stuff. The Prime Minister says a lot of that when he talks. Okay, let's see if we can get to something a little more substantive. I want to hear about the situation with the Americans.
As everyone knows, on Monday, the U.S. administration announced its intention to impose the latest in a series of unilateral, unwarranted trade actions. And we're clear. Canadian governments around this table will do whatever it takes to defend and support our families, our workers, and our businesses. Let's also be clear that we are in a stronger position than we were when this trade war started 18 months ago. We're in a stronger position because of the determination of Canadians themselves, and, I will say this, because of the focus of the premiers around this table.
Those premiers were supposed to get rid of the interprovincial trade barriers, and nearest I can tell, they're failing miserably. I don't know that the premiers deserve much credit here right now. Not all of them, anyway. When it comes to we're stronger than we were when this started. Well, now we're in a recession, and we've got a 70-cent dollar, and we were promised a whole bunch of things that never came to fruition. By the way, the latest numbers from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation suggests housing starts will be down again next year. Remember when Mark Carney swore we were going to build houses at speeds like we've never seen before? Housing starts this year way down, and they'll go down again next year. Nothing we were promised is actually happening. Now we're facing 50% tariffs, and we've got some politicians here in Canada that see an opportunity to not do a deal with America because it's politically better for them to have a fight with Donald Trump. You know, the Mexicans are getting closer and closer to a deal. The Mexicans don't seem all that unhappy. They're playing this completely different. They didn't retaliate. They went to the table. They're close to getting a deal. And it's going to be a good deal for them and a good deal for America. Why can't we do that? Why do we have to have all this bluster? Why do we have to have this aggressive posture in everything that we do? Let's go back to something I played on the pod yesterday. Ontario Premier Doug Ford throwing as much gas on the flame as he can.
We have to hit back. We have to, rather than be on our back heel, as I said, we have to go forward, take the offense. We are an energy powerhouse, and we could dismantle the U.S. if we wanted to, if we all work together.
That sounds like an absolute threat. We could dismantle the U.S. if we wanted to, if we all work together. That clip is not playing well with the U.S. people. It is circulating all across America on social media. They don't like talk like that. Whether it's justified or not, they don't like it. And you know what? I'm really questioning the negotiation strategy here. Because if the strategy is just to keep pissing Donald Trump off so we keep re-electing the same people over and over, then I guess we're on the right track. If we're trying to get a deal, let's keep in mind what the Americans want. Fair access to the dairy market. They want to get into our market like we get into theirs. Doesn't mean Canadians have to buy it, but isn't competition good? You know what else they want? They want us to not ban their products. We banned U.S. alcohol. They don't like it. They never banned our alcohol. We did that. We escalated it. The tariffs that we're facing in 28 days are retaliatory tariffs because of dairy and because we banned U.S. liquor. Those seem like easy things to fix. In fact, I don't even think it would be that bad for Canadians if we fixed them. And bam, that ingratiates us with the Americans. It opens the door and has a chair pulled out for us at the table when we do stuff like that. Threatening to dismantle America? Man, oh man, that's a bad look as far as I can tell.
Alberta and Quebec's premiers. Have your fellow premiers during your meetings this week expressed any concern with you about how rising separatist sentiments in your respective provinces could compromise the push towards national unity?
No, I didn't hear any comments on that topic.
Premier Smith?
Yeah, no, it didn't come up.
That just a little bit of the news conference yesterday with all of the premiers. We have two provinces that have taken a step towards separation. One that has taken a step, and Quebec is expected to take that step. The Council of the Federation meets, and it didn't come up? Wow. I'm kind of surprised to hear that because I think that's a serious concern. I think we should be taking Alberta and Quebec's concerns seriously. You got to make it work for everybody. Confederation works when it works for everybody. I'm shocked to hear it didn't come up. Let me get to Doug Ford now, though. This was him after he had dropped the Dismantle America line, after he had done some U.S. TV interviews where they called him out on it. This is him now at the news conference yesterday.
Well, I'm looking forward to sitting down with the rest of the premiers and the Prime Minister. He needs to lead the way. He needs to come up with a strong plan over the next 29 days, and I'm interested in sitting down with him and hearing the plan. And I'll just speak for Ontario, everything's on the table. We can't keep rolling over for Donald Trump. So that's what I believe in, standing up strong. You negotiate through strength, you don't negotiate through weakness, especially with President Trump.
On that note, Premier Ford, Rachel Aiello, CTV News, you've spoken about standing up to a bully south of the border. How do you feel about this new Gordie Howe Bridge agreement, which will see Canada have to share revenues sooner than the original deal? Did Canada fail to stand up to the bully this time?
No, what I'm interested in is making sure goods get from U.S. to Canada and Canada to the U.S. It's more goods travel across the Ambassador Bridge than anywhere else in the entire country. Over $1 billion of goods two-way go back and forth. So we need to make sure Gordie Howe Bridge is open. I don't believe in one bridge having a monopoly, which I've had for years. But the good news is we're opening the bridge.
Do you find that to be even a little bit cowardly? Anybody, every average Canadian can see that we got a bad deal. We went from getting all the money to now we're splitting the net revenue. Once the snow clearing and people that work at the toll booths are paid and whatever else needs to be done, maybe some maintenance, we split the revenue 50-50 for 15 years. But Canada paid for it up front. Why would we give them half the revenue right now? Doug Ford was asked, is that bowing to the bully? He must think it is. Doug Ford's not a stupid man. He knows that's a terrible deal. But he doesn't want to criticize the Prime Minister. He could have punted it. He could have just said, you know what, it's federal. I'm just glad the bridge is opening. But no, he decided to go dark on that particular question. Sometimes you got to listen to what they don't say, everyone. Next one, Doug Ford again. Here is him sitting down with David Cochrane from the CBC's Power and Politics.
You're confident Mark Carney will have that plan? You are confident in the Prime Minister's ability to deliver on this or not? You
I have
are concerned.
confidence in the Prime Minister.
Okay.
We've always got along. He has a business mind. I like business-minded people, and I have confidence in them. And we need to stick together, and that's the message moving forward. We need a Team Canada approach.
Right.
But I do have confidence with the Prime Minister.
Wait, now I'm confused. Does he or does he not think Mark Carney's a great businessman and Mark Carney did a good deal with the Americans? Why does the media not follow up on any of these things? These are obvious questions. Doug Ford said it. I support the Prime Minister because he's a businessman. But he refused to answer the question about whether or not that businessman got a good deal or if he bowed down to Donald Trump.
Because the U.S. has told us what they're worried about. It's energy, it's potash, it's critical minerals, right? And, if the Western premiers and others can't get on board with that, how do you leverage it?
Well, that's the problem. We need a Team Canada approach led by the Prime Minister. And if he doesn't want to lead it with the other premiers, then I can't do it alone. I feel some days that I'm standing alone protecting Canada, and I need everyone else to get on side. So
you said that yesterday too. What do you mean by that? What is it?
Well, I think everyone should be out there being a little more vocal, right? Trump looks at any weakness whatsoever, and if he looks at premiers agreeing or disagreeing, he looks at the Prime Minister not being as tough as he thought he might be, and I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I just want to see a plan from him, and we look forward to hearing from him tonight and tomorrow.
Doug Ford really, really wants that Captain Canada cape, doesn't he? Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one out there standing up for Canada. I'm curious to know if regular people think that, because frankly, I appreciate that Doug is trying here, and I get that his heart is in the right place, but when he goes off on those Trump derangement syndrome rants, I don't think that helps. I understand he wants to talk from a position of strength, but I don't know that taking shots, personal ones, at the president is going to get us very far.
Everyone's seen President Trump in action. He's sitting with the Prime Minister the night before, all buddy-buddy, and next thing you know, he wakes up and wants to throw on 50% tariffs.
Yeah, the World Cup.
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Okay, I mean, saying you don't trust the president of the United States, again, whether you do or don't, I just don't know that you say these things. I mean, if we're trying to be professional about this and we're trying to do a business deal where everybody gets some of what they want, I don't know saying across the table, I don't trust you is, on top of everything else that's been said, is going to get us very far. The U.S. wants their booze back on our shelves. They're retaliating against our retaliation. Are we going to put the booze back on the shelves to try and start this up again? Premier David Eby.
So no one, as I understand it, is willing to move on the booze ban of the U.S. Products and bring them back on their shelves, despite the economic damage. I know Premier Holt has a modular home company in New Brunswick that's going to be really hurt by what was announced here today. But nobody's moving off of that. You said today there's no way in hell that American booze is going to go back on the shelves in BC. But Premier Ford said earlier, the points of leverage that you're talking about, it's things like potash, it's things like energy. And he suggested that you could cripple the Americans if you acted in concert on that. But that's Alberta and Saskatchewan, which allow booze on their shelves. And Premier Smith has been very clear in the past year and a bit. Don't use the oil industry there as leverage. Do you get any sense that those positions have fundamentally changed today with this new escalation?
Well, there needs to be a coordinated effort across the country. No one province can carry all the weight here, and we need to make sure that that's the case. But as Canadians, we also need to understand that we can't win this fight with a bully by just giving up and putting U.S. booze back on the shelf. When I said there is no way in hell, there is no way in hell. We are putting the booze back on the shelf because of these movements made by Donald Trump. The only way that's going to happen is through an agreement with the Americans that brings trade stability and supports families in Canada and the United States. And we can get there, but we're not going to get there by giving up as soon as Trump shows up with some more tariffs, because guess what? It's going to happen again.
These premiers with this strategy, and I'm thinking about Wab Kinew, David Eby, Doug Ford, and probably some of the ones out on the East Coast. This strategy, we want to leverage everything. Tell America we're going to shut off their oil. Doug Ford last year threatened to shut off the electricity to northeastern states in America. These sort of things are threats to their sovereignty. And I don't know that we should be going down this road. And by the way, since we started doing this, the U.S. is finding other places to get oil. They are finding other places to get potash.
Hey, Doug, you mentioned that all options are on the table regarding leverage with the U.S. Does that include Ontario cutting off electricity exports to the U.S. or bringing back a surcharge for electricity exports?
Everything's on the table.
Can you maybe elaborate on that? What would it take for you to do that? I know you said you don't speak for other premiers, but you've mentioned oil and potash. Are you hoping that the federal government leads a coordinated approach where every province puts something on the table to leverage against the U.S.?
Oh, that can only be done if the rest of the province, it's a Team Canada approach, and we're going to take the Prime Minister's lead. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say.
I think we should probably take that off the table. No, we're not going to shut off your hydro. We're not going to leave families with no air conditioning in Pennsylvania. We're not going to do that. I don't know why we would even imply that that is a threat. Why are we shooting ourselves in the foot and pushing away our best customer here? I know Canadians like to think of it the other way around. We're their best customer. They got to respect us. It goes both ways. I can't believe how adults are talking to each other here. I give full credit to Scott Moe in Saskatchewan and Danielle Smith in Alberta because they've been emphatic. No, we're not pulling U.S. booze off the shelves. No, we're not shutting off their oil. No, we're not going to stop the supply of potash and ruin their entire farming industry. We're not doing that because at the end of this, we still got to be neighbors. At the end of this, hopefully, we're going to come out of this even stronger. Let's not say anything that we can't take back here. Right now, and by the way, those were from Power in Politics, David Cochrane on the CBC. That's where that audio is from. If you want to see the full interviews, they are online. Let's hear from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith.
Well, I can tell you, much like Premier Lance, I think Alberta has not been as exposed to some of the tariffs. 97% of our goods cross the border tariff-free. And even with this latest round, it's about 1% of our overall product that is going to be impacted. And so our approach has been one to say that tariffs don't help anyone. Tariffs hurt Canadian consumers. They hurt American consumers, whether we apply them or they apply them. And although we're at 97% tariff-free, we'd like it to be 100%. And we'd like every other province to be at 100% tariff-free as well. So I think this is a window, this month that we have, or 28 days, to sharpen the pencils and sharpen the focus. And I hope that we can get all of the outstanding issues on the table, whether it's autos or steel, softwood, aluminum, and some of the new issues that have been put on the table so that we can get to a comprehensive agreement. I remain as bullish and maybe hopefully more optimistic as Premier Moe that we can actually get a deal before the month is up. I hope it doesn't drag on into 2027, but I think that the Prime Minister has heard from us that we want to make sure that we get a good deal that is comprehensive and covers all of those outstanding issues, and I think that I hope that that's what he's working towards.
Premier Smith, another pragmatic approach. Let's use these 4 weeks before the new tariffs kick in and work out a deal. That's perfectly appropriate, and that's the tone to say it in. Friends, coming up on the other side of this, I'm going to be talking about interprovincial trade barriers. And I've also got some listener DMs, and I'll try and get you some audio from the U.S. Trade Representative who was testifying in front of Congress yesterday. This episode is brought to you by thecockingstore.com. The Cocking Store is in Mississauga. They are at the border of Etobicoke, right off Renforth and the 401. They have a lowest price guarantee. They offer a senior discount. They have contractor pricing and fast and reliable delivery. The Caulking Store is great. They sell caulking. And when you're doing a DIY project that requires that, this is where you got to go. Even if you go to the website, you can shop online. They've got a great e-commerce platform. If you're a contractor or if you're buying in bulk, this is certainly the place to go. As they say, good caulk was hard to find until they showed up. The wrong sealant is expensive. Repairs, expensive. Expensive is expensive. Do it right the first time. The caulking store has the right professional grade sealant for less, and they've got the experts, the people who know what they're talking about. Whether you're a master builder or you're doing a DIY project, you will get reliable advice from knowledgeable people, not somebody in an apron that's trying to read a label for the very first time right there in front of you. Go to thecaulkingstore.com if you want more info.
Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
After this hearing, I'm actually flying down to Mexico City to meet with President Sheinbaum, to meet with Secretary Ebrard. The team is down there negotiating. So we're moving with all due speed on all of this. There are some issues in USMCA which take a longer time to address. Issues that are quite important. Some of these are related to rules of origin. We want rules of origin in USMCA to be very strong to incentivize production in North America as opposed to other regions that have a lot of excess capacity or non-market practices. But it does take time to develop these. Similarly, I've heard from folks also in Congress about the need to strengthen labor and environment enforcement vis-a-vis Mexico. This can take time as well. That being said, I'm hopeful that before the end of the year, we can have at least options for President Trump and the leaders of Canada and or Mexico to consider potential interim arrangements or things that Canada can do on the one hand and Mexico can do on the other hand to strengthen enforcement, to improve their commitments toward us, and to make sure that we're managing all of the trade issues. So I would love to have between now and the end of the year at least some arrangements, one with Canada, one with Mexico, and then some of these issues that are really important, like rules of origin. I know labor environment is important to a lot of folks here, that take a little more time to have further discussion of that, including with Congress in the following year.
U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer yesterday speaking to a congressional hearing. He's saying he's hoping we can have something in place by 2027. An interim arrangement, maybe not a full deal. I think we got to move a lot faster than that. And it can be done. Mark Carney last week in Ottawa said if we wanted a deal, we could have one this afternoon. But it wouldn't be a good deal. What are we waiting for? At what point do you think our leaders owe us a little bit of transparency and say, hey, listen, we're not going to compromise on supply management. We're not going to compromise on steel and aluminum. We're not going to compromise on autos. We're not going to compromise on this or that. No way we're getting rid of our digital services tax. When are they going to start being a little more transparent with us? You know, this is not a national security thing. We can all speculate, and a lot of people are. Be honest with the Canadian people. There's some congressional testimony there, televised yesterday, from the trade representative updating the status of negotiations. We don't get updates like that here. Let's go to one more from Jamieson Greer.
The new 50% tariffs on Canada. Can you explain the timing? Why now?
So first of all, Canada has had its retaliatory measures in place on us for at least a year. Things like dairy have been discriminatory against the United States for even longer than that. So we have been considering, very tailored action to respond to those things, which we've done. So we have 3 separate actions: one for the hard cap that they've put on some of our cars, or the quotas and the system they put on our cars; the total ban they've put many of the provinces, on alcohol and liquor and that kind of thing, and then of course the last one? The dairy, where they give the Europeans a better deal than we do. So this is something that's been in preparation for some time. We have tried for over a year to get the Canadians to eliminate these things. again, we've given them the best treatment available in the world in the past year or so, and despite that, they've still taken these actions, so we thought it was necessary to elevate this. Last question.
Going to further antagonize the relationship between the countries?
I have great interactions with my counterparts. I talk to them. For us, this is business, this is trade, this is economics. We're looking at bottom lines.
Very interesting insight there afterwards when he was speaking to the media. That is certainly not the perspective that we're getting from our media or from our leaders. They're making it seem like the U.S. is pointing guns at us, getting ready to invade us. You heard him just say it. It's business. We've wanted the Canadians for over a year now to drop some of these things like supply management, like banning the U.S. booze and things like that, and they haven't done it. So now we're facing 50% tariffs. That's all it is. They're retaliating to our retaliation. Yesterday, the premiers were all taking a victory lap, or many of them were, because they signed a deal for most of the provinces to be able to offer direct-to-consumer alcohol sales. I just want to remind everybody, and this is bipartisan. This is Conservative premiers, NDP premiers, and a couple Liberal premiers. They all got this done. Great. They're working together, I guess. Fun. They promised us a year ago they were going to get rid of all of the interprovincial trade barriers. So we're one country and one economy. Yesterday, a year later, they're taking a victory lap because they managed to allow direct-to-consumer sales. But there's some caveats. Nothing commercial, meaning bars and restaurants still can't order alcohol from other provinces. And this is also direct to consumer, not going through provincial liquor agencies. Because if that happens, then there's going to be interprovincial tariffs. You know, that is a massive trade barrier. They took a baby step. I mean, the smallest of baby steps. If you're listening in British Columbia and you've been to Niagara and you want to try some of the Peller Estates wine and you know you love it, so you want to order some, great. Now you can do it. And you can wait 4 to 7 business days, and you can pay for shipping from Canada Post, and you can order a case of bottles of wine from that Niagara brewery if you're listening in British Columbia right now. Good. Why aren't these things available at an even cheaper rate, since it's within Canada, at the LCBO or at the Alberta liquor stores? Liquor stores could sell so much more Canadian alcohol if they stocked all the Canadian alcohol. If you could walk in to any liquor store in the country and find beers from the East Coast, West Coast, and Central Canada, wine from Niagara and Kelowna and Prince Edward County, if you could find some good Alberta rye and then maybe some of the cool ryes that they're experimenting with in Ontario and Quebec, all in one store, do you know how much more alcohol we would sell? Do you know how much more inspired people would be to try new Canadian products? Being able to order it directly from the manufacturer is a joke. Great that you can do it, but God, that's the amount of progress that these premiers have made in 1 year. I don't understand why they keep telling Canadians that we're moving at a speed that's never been seen before. A wartime effort. We're going to make ourselves our own best customers. All those lines. And in a year, all they managed to accomplish is you can now order alcohol from the manufacturer in another province. Forget convenience. Forget selection. Forget basic marketing. You can at least order it from the manufacturer. Seriously, who's going to do that? I like some Alberta rye. Not enough to order it from the manufacturer. If you're listening in Newfoundland and you want to try a new gin, are you really ordering from the Dillon's website in Ontario and waiting for it to arrive a few days later? Come on. They didn't really do anything. That was a press release about nothing yesterday. They've got so much more work to do. And I can't understand why these premiers, if they're so united and aligned, won't all stand up and say there is no barriers in our province from any other province. None. shop away, travel away, import, export. You want to take a vehicle from one province to another? You don't have to pay a separate registration fee in that province. Get rid of all the barriers, all of them. No more money going north-south. Get it going east-west. They said that's what we were going to do. They're not doing it, or they're doing it at an incredibly slow pace. Friends, tomorrow I am going to be doing listener DMs, and I'm going to fit in as many as I can before the weekend, but I still have some left over from last week. So I'm going to go through these real quick, and I want to thank the people who sent these in. First one is from Dragon. Hey, Scott, I'm listening to your Friday podcast about 40% of companies leaving Canada. It's true. The drywall company that I work for are moving to Florida and Vegas because it's too expensive for them in Canada right now. Thank you for that. I believe it. I hear it all the time. Smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses, they're panicking right now. Unless we have some certainty, they're going to pick up and move. And you know what? The further they go down the rabbit hole, the more they start looking into moving, the more they realize how much cheaper it is to operate there. We got to get our act together here. Next one is from Pierre. Oh man, Scott, I was listening to you talk about the 407. Let me tell you, I just got back from Croatia. I went from one spot to a Split, which is a popular tourist area. The drive was 3.5 hours. It cost only 10 euros. Wow. For those who are not in Ontario, we have this express toll route built by the taxpayers, paid for by the taxpayers. We sold it for like $3 billion 20 years ago. Now the thing's worth like $40 billion, and they're charging extortionate rates to use this highway. To go 100 kilometers from the beginning of where it starts getting tolled to the end of where it stops getting tolled, that's about an hour drive, about 100 kilometers. That can easily cost you close to $100 with taxes and fees. One way, 100 kilometers. It's insane. They got to do something about that. You know, if Doug Ford ever needs to pull a rabbit out of his hat and try and please the electorate, he will buy back the 407 and right that wrong. Next one is from Yankee. Scott, I'm really confused about this bridge revenue and the revenue that comes from tolls. There is no other revenue. So if we're going to start sharing revenue, but not the tolls, what's the difference? And how does that even make sense? Okay, Yankee, thank you. He's talking about the Gordie Howe Bridge. Yeah, we talked a lot about splitting net revenue. Well, net revenue really only comes from tolls. Now, there could be other fees. I don't know if we're going to charge commercial enterprises a fee. Maybe there's a VIP line if you send a lot of trucks back and forth. I don't know if there's any other way to make money, but yeah, you're right. Nearest I can tell, we're only talking about tolls. And that goes back to the Prime Minister knew that, and he misled Canadians or flat out lied, one or the other. This one is from Adam. Good afternoon, Scott. Hoping you could clear something up for us on your next DMs episode. I follow politics pretty closely lately, and I listen to your show religiously. But there's one thing I'm still a little confused on right now because it seems like nobody is talking about the details. I know the Liberal majority was tenuous at best in the House of Commons. I was under the understanding they had a majority by 1 or 2 seats, but in recent days, I've heard no less than 3 MPs have quit or stepped down or been reassigned. Wouldn't that have ended the Liberal majority, or would they only have stepped down from cabinet but are still keeping their seats as MPs? Or maybe did fully step down mean that they are waiting for a by-election to be held first? What's the situation with the MPs and the Liberal majority? Thank you, Adam. Adam, thank you for that. I actually don't know the current configuration because there were some people who received political appointments to be ambassadors and things like that. They will have to resign their seat, but have they done that yet? I don't know. There were some people that were announced they're stepping down, they're retiring, they're leaving. Okay, well, we'll have to have some by-elections, clearly. I don't know what the actual number split is, though. That's a very good question. Also one you could answer with a quick Google search, but let me just point out, it's ridiculous that Parliament isn't sitting right now. When we have the entire Council of the Federation and the Prime Minister that have to have urgent meetings and meet twice in 3 days due to an imminent threat from a foreign power, it is ridiculous that Mark Carney has not recalled the House of Commons and let the MPs have their say. Next question. This is from Trevor. Scott, got a question for you. My question is around gas prices. We've all heard how we should expect the prices to rise significantly since the Strait of Hormuz is blocked again. Why don't prices come down as quickly when there's a ceasefire or deal to open it again? Wouldn't it make sense for the same to happen, or are we getting screwed here? Trevor, short answer, we are absolutely getting screwed here. The prices, they went up like a rocket. And as soon as something happens, somebody sneezes over in Iran and bam, oil prices are going up again. And the gas prices always correspond very, very quickly. But when the oil price comes down, they're very, very slow to lower the price. I can't see that as anything else other than us getting ripped off. One more on this episode. I'm going to save a message I got about Canada Post for tomorrow's episode. This is from Grant. Scott, I'll say this again. When it comes to MPs, Conservatives have been leaps and bounds more helpful than Liberals. I'm trying to help my best friend due to complications with her immigration status, and Canada Post lost her passport. Every Conservative MP I have called has been able to talk to someone and get help. Every Liberal one, including our immigration minister, either never answered or brushed me off. And people still vote for these guys time and time again when they show they don't care. Thank you to Carter and MP Strauss for helping my friend the best they can and working on her behalf. Also thanks to MP John Nader. Conservatives have showed they care and earned my vote. Yeah, you know what? The members of Parliament, they have an obligation. They're there to serve the riding. Even when the House isn't in, they should be in their office. They should be dealing with matters that are important to their constituents. That's something I'm going to do. I'll be very, very active, and I'll have office hours with a mainly open door policy. I'll talk to anybody. If you need help and I'm getting paid that kind of money, you're goddamn right I'm going to help the best I can. So I'll tell you, I share the same philosophy as those Conservative MPs that helped you. I'm glad they were able to. I'd love to tell you I'm surprised that the Liberal members of Parliament that you contacted weren't helpful, but I'm actually not that surprised. Friends, tomorrow, whatever the Prime Minister and the Premiers have to say about it today is going to be airing on that episode of After 9. It will be out tomorrow. I'm also going to do some more listener DMs that have come in. I hope you have a fantastic Thursday, and I'll catch you right back here in less than 24 hours.